What's going on, Lakers fans, and welcome into episode 37 of the Lake Show Flow. I am your host, Gio. As we have plenty to talk about, the Lakers have dropped 4 games in a row. It is looking like, the sky's falling to some Laker fans. A lot of things to go over, a lot of things to kind of catch up on. Tonight, though, the Lakers put up one of the biggest fights, one of the most unlikely of fights that you would have thought they could do against the Nuggets. They almost upset the Nuggets without most of their key rotation players. And that's probably the game I'm going to touch on as far as the encouraging signs, even though they've lost 4 in a row. You got to keep in mind the injuries that have been occurring and guys in and out of the lineup. So we'll get into that. But before I get started, I just want to say, if you're new here or you've been here, please show your support on the channel. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Leave me a comment. Let's start a little conversation. And, tell your friends about it. Share it. And, if you're new, hit that subscribe button, like I said. But, so I've been gone. Since my last podcast, I was intending to speak about the Boston game that happened about a week ago, and I never ended up recording that one. I did end up challenging myself physically. I went through a little 3-day fast just to cleanse myself a little bit and just experience it, because I just wanted to challenge myself and see if I could do that. There's a lot of health benefits. I do recommend it for various reasons, but this isn't a health podcast, so don't take my word for it. Look into it before you do anything like that. But I was just giving you guys a little update. And it's been a little chaotic with the Lakers. We can touch on first that Boston game that they lost. And you never like to lose to the Celtics. Nobody likes to lose to the Celtics. But you have to remember, as a Laker fan, you got to put things in perspective. And Boston is the measuring stick. I don't care the kind of season that OKC's having. I don't care the type of season that Cleveland's having. I think they've won like 16 games in a row or something. I really don't give a damn. I don't like to admit it, but the Boston Celtics are the best team, top to bottom, depth and everything. When they're healthy, they are the best team in the league. They just won a championship. That's the team you have to look out for. That's the team you have to measure yourself against, right? I know the Lakers got demons from the past like the Nuggets, but for all intents and purposes, I think they can beat Denver this year when they're healthy. They already showed it, right? So I'm not really concerned about Denver. They're not the boogeyman this year. Obviously, there's a lot of teams the Lakers are going to have to get through in order to play Boston, but Boston is the measuring stick. Boston is the best team. Boston's been there. So even if it is OKC with this historic season they're having and they play Boston, I really would take Boston in that. Experience-wise, depth-wise, I would take that. So on that game, the Lakers unfortunately lost, obviously. They lost LeBron in that game as well. They didn't have Rui already. They didn't have Jackson Hayes already. To give them their credit, the Boston Celtics didn't have Kristaps Porzingis, right? So it was kind of a chess match for the first and second quarters. By the time the third rolls around, the Lakers have a infamous reputation for selling the damn games in the third quarter. It's something that just tends to happen ever since the Darvin Ham era. I don't know why. I really don't know. But they did fall really flat in the third quarter. Boston ends up going crazy. It was a great Tatum game. You're going to get those where he's just setting the tone, right? And unfortunately, they lose. They start to get their legs underneath. They cut it down to 7, and LeBron ends up getting injured during that run. And so he goes out. He ends up straining his groin. And basically, it was a fight. They got within 4 points. I truly believe if LeBron was okay, they could have won. But, right, if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk, So you could say all these ifs and all that. You could say if Rui played, if Jackson played, but then they could say, well, if Porzingis played. There's a lot of ifs. The point is they lost. But what you can take away from that is get your shit together in the third quarters, Lakers. And you didn't look half bad against that team. If you had more healthy pieces, who knows what happens, right? So even though that's the measuring stick, it's not. They were in Boston too, right? So it's kind of hard to win on the road, shorthanded, and you don't show up in the third, which I have no excuse for. That's just on them. They got to get better habits going, honestly. So that's a tough loss. Then we hear that LeBron is probably going to be out for Depending on the severity, we're all pretty much holding our breath, waiting to see what happens. And he gets diagnosed with the groin strain, and they say that it's probably going to be 1 to 2 weeks, or no, 2 to 4 weeks, sorry. And we got another update recently, and I'll go over that. But yeah, so we knew he wasn't going to play in Brooklyn. We knew that Rui was still going to be out. Jackson has a prolonged absence. DFS, Dorian Finney-Smith, he doesn't play in the Brooklyn game. And so it's Luka and Reeves, and Luka ends up having a very inefficient scoring-wise triple-double. That's just kind of what he does. He can kind of step into a triple-double without the best scoring, without the best efficiency. I will say that another note from the Boston game, bad officiating. It's been kind of happening. It's kind of crazy. I don't like to blame refs, and I don't. But you can just feel like other teams are able to set the tone and do their thing without being penalized for it. And that's what Boston was able to do with Tatum. He pushes off a lot. And sorry about that, but he pushes off a lot and he doesn't get called. He doesn't get called for offensive fouls. They can play aggressive and stuff and they don't get called for fouls. The Lakers try to match the aggression, and it's like two kids fighting on the playground. The one that goes and hits the kid, the second one, the retaliator, right? That's the one that gets in trouble. And that's what the Lakers are kind of finding themselves in, is they try to match this aggressiveness from teams, and they're the ones who start getting the foul calls. But then on the other side, they can't get them, right? They can't get the actual calls back. It's really imbalanced lately. And so going into Brooklyn, the same thing kind of happens, but also you can't make excuses. Austin and Luka, they tried their best, but they just weren't efficient enough. Austin's been getting his legs under him, and him and Luka were the main ones responsible. I think they kind of walked onto that court and felt like, you know what? Brooklyn is tanking. We can beat this team with our eyes closed. Problem is, by the time they open their eyes and they try to compete and try to say, oh shit, this team came and tried to punch us in the mouth, they're getting foul calls. We're not getting as many, or, the ones we want. We're kind of falling short. We're kind of complaining to the refs instead of getting back on defense. Like, so many things to take away from that. And they end up losing. So yet another loss in a row. That's 2 in a row. And then you fast forward to the back-to-backs that just happened. They play against the Bucks. We finally get a Luka Doncic Dallas type performance. The type of performances that he was putting up, with his eyes closed, like I said, in Dallas though. And he ends up with 45 points against the Bucks. And then Austin Reeves with 28 points, 8 rebounds. The duo looked great. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. Giannis gets his stuff going. They still didn't have a center. JJ goes small in the third and in the fourth, I believe. Or when did he start? I think it was the third. And it kind of just lets Giannis go crazy because he wasn't having the best half. And we don't even have the best options at center right now. Alex Len is just not it. I like Trey Jemison, but he's a little limited. Koloko didn't get playing time, which is kind of weird. And it was tough. They try to play small ball. Giannis eats us alive. Brook Lopez eats us alive. And it was just one of those games where it was a wasted, amazing performance by Luka. Just like in that Brooklyn game, they kind of wasted a very amazing performance by Gabe Vincent, unfortunately. And then he comes in this game and only scores 6. So we wasted that performance. Then we waste the Luka game where he has 45, damn near 50. And I want to touch on something, too, on that game. So when Luka drops this 45, he only had 3 assists, and it wasn't even his fault. He was distributing the ball. He probably could have had closer to 8, 9 assists if people were making their damn shots. Unfortunately, the Lakers were not making their jump shots, and the Bucks were in that game. So it's tough, but people criticize Luka for the same things that they praise Kobe for. If Kobe would drop a 45-point game, it was never Kobe's fault. And I loved Kobe, right? So, of course, I was defending that too. And it's not their fault if their teammates are just not making shots, right? So that's just something I just get a little irritated by, is like, I get it, Luka just got here, but that's exactly the point. Luka just got here. Like, give him some time to acclimate himself, to get his legs even more under him, because he is playing hurt, technically. And so I just don't get it. It's like when he's only distributing the ball, he's not shooting enough. When he's scoring 45 points, he's not passing enough. Even though he was passing, people just weren't making shots, so it doesn't show up in the scoreboard, right? I would like to see those people look into the potential assist stat, and they would see, you know what? Luka is also passing the ball. Luka's also, trying to get his teammates involved. It's not his fault. But he had a great game. He was very efficient with his shooting in that game. Unfortunately, him and Austin just weren't enough. And then they have to go from Milwaukee to 24 hours later, a little bit over, playing against the Denver Nuggets in Denver tonight. And so we get the reports coming into this game that they're not going to have LeBron again, Rui again. Gabe Vincent was out, Dorian was out, and Luka was out. So it's basically Austin Reeves having to carry most of the depth pieces that the Lakers do have on the roster, and they surprise everybody. Just the performance tonight was one of those games where all of a sudden you're smiling even after a loss. And it hurts every time you lose to a team like Denver. But just like all these other games that have at least some signs of encouragement, we had the Luka 45 with Austin complementing that with almost 30 points. And that was encouraging to see Austin start to get his legs under him in that game the night before. And then tonight, Austin Reeves ends up with 37 points, 13 assists, and 8 rebounds. And the second leading scorer was Dalton Connect with 32 points. Insane. His second 30-point game as a rookie. So he's starting to get his confidence back. But Austin Reeves finally battling through injury, by the way. Shout out to Jovan Buha. He's in the locker room with these guys. He interviews and does the post games, and he's part of that. He's a Lakers beat reporter for The Athletic. So he said that Austin Reeves had like ice wrapped around his wrist. He's been battling that injury, and he also had that calf strain. So he's playing through it. But he also has been very efficient, or he hasn't been very efficient. But this game, he was very efficient. He carried the team, and they almost shocked the world, almost embarrassed Denver in Denver. Once again, that would have been beautiful. Mike Malone, he ended up, crumbling the box score and throwing it away because he was so embarrassed that they allowed the Lakers with G Leaguers and then Austin Reeves. Bronny James was in the game. He actually made some defensive plays, so shout out to Bronny. It was a very, very beautiful performance in order to flex depth and also see that Austin can look closer to the way he was looking before he got hurt, right? And once again, in this game, Jokic, he had 17 free throw attempts on his own, and the Lakers had 16 as a team. If that doesn't put in perspective the discrepancy we've been experiencing as Lakers, as the Laker fans, to see this and put it in perspective, it's insane because the Lakers deserve more free throw opportunities. There was a lot of things not being called. There was a lot of things that were called for Denver, and I feel like that made a huge difference. And don't get me wrong, there's some things down the stretch. People were saying that, JJ could have put in a more defensive lineup on the last possessions. He even said that he takes responsibility for the last possession where Jokic gets the N1. So that was unfortunate that happened. But honestly, if you're going to be encouraged by this string of losses, obviously you never like to lose, but this game was crazy. They should have never... I put it on because I'm a sicko, like they say. I'm a sicko when it comes to being a Laker fan. I'm going to watch every game, even the ones that are probably going to be ugly. But instead, we get a sight for sore eyes, and it's a beautiful performance. And here's my main takeaways from this string of losses. The Boston game, as I said, they're the best team in the league. They're the measuring stick. We hate Boston. Fuck Boston, but they're the best team, right? When you look at that, you put it in perspective, you have signs of encouraging things. You can see that your team can beat Boston. They actually beat them without AD, without LeBron last year, and then they beat them this year as well at home. So there's nothing to be discouraged by with that matchup. I feel like LeBron goes out, you never know what happens if he comes back in. If Rui plays, you never know. Jackson Hayes, even if they had Porzingis, you never know. So there's a lot to be encouraged by that game. Then there's the Nets game that was just ugly. You don't have LeBron. It's the first game without him. You don't have DFS. I feel like he would have made the difference in that game. Luka and Reeves, there's no excuse. They should have shot better. They should have been more efficient. A lot of free throws that you could have, had on your side, but you didn't as the Lakers. And the defense, though. The defense was really pretty bad in that game, pretty bad in the Milwaukee game. But then again, you don't have all your horses, It's kind of hard to implement the same game plan when you have to play Dalton. There's a difference between, and I love Dalton, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of potential there, but we all know he can't defend to save his life. So when you have no choice but to play Dalton versus having the choice and just bringing him in as a depth piece, that's a big difference. They kind of were forced to throw Dalton in more without having a perimeter defender like DFS. So I'm not trying to make excuses. They still should have won that game. They should have. There's no reason you lose to the Nets. Then the Milwaukee game, it's kind of hard when Luka drops 45, Reeves damn near a 30-point game. They're both more efficient. They're both looking better, and the rest of the team just doesn't show up, right? So, and then, obviously, coaching mistakes. You play a little small. That's when the game gets away completely. Giannis does his thing. What are you going to do, right? They had the size on us. You're going to lose to those teams, especially on the road. It's hard to snag those ones. And then tonight with the Nuggets game, like I said, we had no business being competitive, but the Lakers got it done. They got it done, and not got it done, but they put up a fight, right? They didn't go down. They didn't lay down. They were fighting until the end. It was a great game. Like I said, Reeves is looking more like himself. The depth is shining. This was a big momentum building game for Dalton Connect in terms of his confidence. And then we get the update that with LeBron, Rui, and Jackson, they should be out no more than 3 to 7 more days. But JJ didn't specify who, but he said that one of those players could be out a little longer. People are assuming that it's going to be LeBron because he has the more serious injury. Hopefully it's not LeBron. Hopefully he's back sooner. I saw him jumping off the bench being excited when he saw his son Bryce win the state championship today. So who knows? Maybe he's more healthy than they're letting off. But the Lakers do return home, and they have a 5-game homestand, I believe. So it is exciting to think about because they play really good at home. They could have LeBron back. They could have Rui and Jackson back. For this, I think Luka's going to be back too. I think they just gave him like a maintenance day, which is a good thing. So tonight, like I said, it was impressive because Luka did not play. So going forward, I have a sense of optimism with this team. We got to remember, JJ, he told the guys, I guess, that it was all good just a week ago. And that's what he basically said. Remember what happened when we were healthy. We were the 2nd seed in the league. We were on an 8-game winning streak. Like, there's so much to be encouraged by. So he said it. He said it was all good just a week ago. I mean, like Jay-Z said, though, moral victories are from minor league coaches, right? So I'm not going to take too many moral victories with all these losses, but you have to try to find the encouraging things you see, even in the chaos. You got to find beauty in the madness. Shout out to the weekend. But like I said, we do have to start winning games. Every win matters in this playoff race. I feel like they need to at least get the 3 seed. If they can somehow, I think we've seen some weaknesses in Denver. They might take some more L's. If they almost lost to the Lakers, like bench warmers, plus Reeves, like there's no reason why they won't take more losses. So if we get healthy in time to outplay them and somehow snag that 2nd seed, maybe Memphis loses more too, we could still end up with number 2, but I'll be healthy. I'll be happy with 3 to 4, and the squad is healthy is what I mean. So like I said, we got to take what we can from these games. The sky's not falling. We're going to be okay, Lakers Nation. I promise the Lakers are going to bounce back. As soon as we have more healthy pieces back in the lineup, we're going to start winning again. It was all good just a week ago. So that's all I'm going to have for you guys today. I'm going to put a cap on that one. But yeah, I'm going to be back more consistent again. Like I said, I was kind of challenging myself with that fast. It took a little time to recover physically, but it was worth it for me. And took a little break, but this is the home stretch. Hopefully LeBron comes back. Hopefully Luka keeps having those type of games or close to him because, like I said, he can walk onto the court and basically have a triple-double. If he's the only star we have, like superstar, because I wouldn't say Austin Reeves is a superstar yet, even though he looked like one today, Luka can step on the court with a triple-double already pretty much penciled in, right? So I just hope he at least has those type of games, efficient scoring. And I think this team can win a lot more than people are expecting. Because think about it, this bench unit, they have a lot more confidence going forward, right? So I'm encouraged. I hope you guys are a little encouraged despite all the bad stuff happening. I do need some water. My voice was kind of going out a little bit in this. It was a little dry. But bear with me. I'll be back on it. Maybe I'm a little rusty because I took a little week off. But I'm encouraged by this team, and I look forward to covering more games. We're almost there. We're less than 20 games away from the playoffs. So let's get it. Like I said, if you're new here or you've been here, please hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button if you are new. Share it with your friends. Leave me a comment. But we appreciate any and all support. That's going to do it for the Lake Show Flow, and we'll see you guys next time.